Hey everyone, John from ARTV. This is the finale to the Florence and the Machine review series that I've been doing. This was spurred by, I suppose, the release of High as Hope, but also me wanting to, and the numerous requests that I have received over the years. And today, I am closing out with the only album that I hadn't reviewed up to this point, the 2011 release, Ceremonials. Now, this is a fascinating record that I really fell in love with a long time ago, but I didn't fall back in love with it, I suppose, until maybe about 6 months ago when I picked up this record at a local record store. It was available in the used bin and it caught my eye. It was sitting there and I thought, you know what? I haven't heard this in a while. I initially got into this back in 2011. I had fallen for some of the tracks on the debut album Lungs, and then I heard everyone buzzing about this new release in the fall of 2011. I had to check it out and see what it was all about for myself, and once I did, I found these huge, soaring tracks that featured, yes, prominent and very talented and gorgeous vocals from Florence Welch, but also rich instrumentation thanks to Paul Epworth, James Ford, and the numerous other collaborators that worked on this record, the Machine aspect. Despite the many praises that I now have for the English alternative band, that wasn't always the case, and I do think that that was because I wasn't really properly informed, and I wasn't truly fleshing out my deep dive into the band, I suppose. I was listening to them, but I wasn't truly paying attention. So, in a way, am I glad that I didn't review this on my channel back in 2011? Yeah, I kinda am, because I don't think I would have done it justice whatsoever. Compared to the band's debut album Lungs, I would say that Ceremonials is a bit more consistent with its presentation. Not that the first album wasn't, it's just that there were some tracks that maybe felt a little bit out of place. You could go from something like Cosmic Love to Dog Days Are Over, which was a fascinating single, yes, but very different sounding. And then also another single that kind of felt like it was out in the outfield, Kiss with a Fist. Again, I'm not complaining, you probably saw my review of Lungs. I definitely love all of the tracks that I just mentioned. It's just that I think that overall, Ceremonials all came from a very connected place and point of view, and I think that a lot of that credit goes to Paul Epworth. I was always fascinated by the visual element, especially at this time with Florence and the Machine. I wasn't really at that time paying attention to singles as heavily as I do now, but even looking back on it, I suppose that I did realize that some of the tracks were singles. I just didn't necessarily listen to those tracks more than the others outside of, say, Shake It Out. I do think that that is one of the band's great singles, one of the band's great songs, and is it the best song here? Maybe perhaps one of them, but there are tracks that top it for me. In fact, there's a lot of flavor and a lot of love that was poured into the making of this record and its deep tracks. Love is the universal theme that kind of acts as the pulse of the album, the starting point, the jumping off spot, if you will. And I do think that she ties love into these big building themes, and she's able to really entrance everything and kind of mesmerize with these metaphors and the layers. And I think that the musicality adds this extra oomph and this extra wow factor to the music that sometimes is definitely needed in order to make the songs more compelling. Obviously, that's music in general, and you could really say that about anything, but with Florence and the Machine, it's not that the lyrics are ever weak, it's just that I always admire how really all of the collective is able to get together and make something sound just epic. And prime example of that, my favorite song on the LP, and definitely one of my favorite tracks from Florence and the Machine, the track No Light, No Light. I think we all have those songs that send shivers down our spines just because we either relate to them on a very personal level or else we find them to be so ambitious and so towering above other songs and its own musical peers. But a song like No Light, No Light is just extraordinary. It doesn't come along every day. This song was made with very special, tender, loving care, and you can tell that. Everything from the harps to the percussion, the strong drums on this track, and of course, Florence's vocal performance. Holy hell, she knocks this thing to the moon. This song soars, and I just feel like I should be out dancing somewhere in the wilderness with a song like this, because it just gives me visions of something and somewhere else. It's one of those songs that transports you in the best way, and even the breakdown here where you get a little bit of that heavy bass and it keeps you in suspense just long enough before soaring and launching back into that final chorus. It's talking about love, a relationship, and things falling apart, and she says, "I would do anything to make you stay." And you truly feel that, but on like an out of this world level. To me, it's quite obvious that Florence Welch is a person that feels things very heavily. In tracks like Spectrum, she even talks about all of the color that really comes out when maybe she's around someone. And not to say that that's one of my favorite songs here, I still appreciate the commentary and the lyrical content, and just the overall chorus of that one, not as huge on the verses, but what I'm driving at is that I feel like Florence is the type of person that could just make a home anywhere. She seems like she has a bit of wanderlust in her soul, and if you dropped her on a remote island somewhere, she would manage to make friends with whoever was there and strike up a musical performance. And I say that and I hint at that because I want to talk about a couple of songs on here that remind me of those exact feelings. The first of those is Heartlines, and the second is Only If For The Night. Now, the second of those is a very personal song because it feels connected to her grandmother. She got the musicianship from Paul Epworth, he brought the song to her, and it features church bells and other chimes and just a percussion style that's a little bit different and more unique to open up the album as it is the first track here. But this song does have a certain rhythm and a dreamlike presence, as she even opens the song by talking about the fact that she had this dream about her grandmother, and it was inspired by her, Joan of Arc, and is a very visceral tune. And I think that she does feel things very heavily, as I mentioned, and this song is a prime example of when that really pays off for her. Now, on the song Heartlines, to contrast that, I do feel like this one has a little bit more of a lighthearted spirit to it, and like I was saying before, if she was dropped on an island somewhere, I just feel like this is the soundtrack of that. It's not my favorite song here, in fact it's one of my least favorites, even though I do not dislike this song. It still just gives me that feeling for whatever odd reason. Fast-paced pianos get us off to the races on the beautiful Lover to Lover, which features an excellent chorus. I love the backing instrumentation, even the guitar and the lingering bass, not only on that track, but right before that, Breaking Down, we really get a prominent use of it. Seven Devils is something that gives an almost very cult-like experience to me. I don't know why I use the word cult, because it's not to say that it's like a bad thing that I'm picturing. I'm just picturing something a little bit weird and maybe somebody like in the smoke waving their hands around and conjuring something up. I don't know if it's good, I don't know if it's evil, but the song is fascinating. We also get other tangible moments on this LP that I really still feel like hold up all these years later, and one of those is What the Water Gave Me. This was a successful single, and I like the way that this track really feels like it fuses together gospel, alternative, and other styles of music, and you get a wide array of instrumentation on this track. And I say kind of a gospel-style track, but it kind of reminds me of my time in church in a good way. If you ever went to church, you might remember some of the worship-styled songs, especially in like a Christian church, and it's something where they often have these backing layered vocals, and I feel that in What the Water Gave Me. And it says, "Lay me down, let the only sound be the overflow." And that build-up there reminds me so much of that. And it's really good to me because I didn't often like those songs that we would sing in church, but I knew that I guess they had potential, and this just capitalizes on that potential and remains an amazing tune. Even though my love for Ceremonials cools off a bit in its last act, the last 4 songs or so aren't quite as amazing to me, there are still highlights there, and I would like to touch on one of those, I guess 2 of them technically, the last 2 tracks on the standard edition of the LP. Now the first of those is All This in Heaven Too, and this one does feel strong from a lyrical point of view. I'm not always fascinated by the musicality of the track, but again, it's going for something different, and I do think that it pretty much accomplishes it, and it does feature a very strong chorus. I think that it's talking about things that are wanted but not always had. and then that quickly gives way to the final track, Leave My Body, and this one truly has grown on me over time. I still can't say that it's a total favorite of mine. As I said, the ending of the record is a little bit cooler for me, but Leave My Body is something, especially towards the end as it picks up steam and really just adds extra layers. Sure, it gets repetitive, but a lot of great songs go out on high notes where they repeat choruses or they repeat phrases, and this one just feels like you got done with some sort of epic, wild, bizarre party where we all exchanged feelings and emotions, and now we're ready to go. We're ready to go back into life. And that album, Ceremonials, it just does that. It sends you back. After you get done with the experience, it's like, okay, get back out there and you can do this. It's comforting on many levels, and it also doesn't feel too full of itself, like it knows the songs are epic. It's just that the songs are. And I love the line on my favorite song on the LP, No Light, No Light, and it actually features the phrase, "We can't choose what stays and what fades away." Well, this album certainly isn't fading, and neither are Florence and the Machine. You're right, we can't choose, and this album just naturally does it. For me, overall, Ceremonials might not be perfect, but it is damn great. And for me, I am rating this a 4.5 out of 5. What do you guys think? Have you heard the album recently? Or if you've never heard it, please change that right now. There is a link to stream it in the description down below. Thanks a lot for tuning into my throwback review of this album. As I said at the beginning of the video, this concludes my Florence and the Machine review series. If you haven't seen the other reviews, then please check the playlist that'll be coming in just a minute at the end of the video in the inslate, or else there's a link down below. Please drop a like on the video while you're here. Subscribe if you are new so you don't miss out on other uploads. I do everything music related, reviews, top 10s, ranked series, everything like that, and of course throwback reviews. Much love to all of my Patreon supporters that are already a part of what I'm doing here on the channel and helping support that financially. If you are able to make a contribution on a monthly basis, then please visit the top link down below, or else this handy dandy annotation right over here in the corner of the screen. If you want to see all of the Florence and the Machine videos, tap right over here, or tap over here for another recent video. Socials in the description, and I'll see you soon for more on ARTV.